morning, grade 12s. This is then a part of the workshop on number system. So we have quite a few questions here on different levels. Right, the first one says, at noon one day the temperature was negative 9.5 degrees. By midnight it has fallen by 3.6 degrees. What is the temperature? So that means we are going below further, and you actually have to add those two. This is actually minus 3.6, and the answer is then negative 13.1 degree. Right, question 2. Insert brackets to make the following statement correct. Now this is an error and trial question. There's no formula that we can use here. So you'll have to keep on trying to see if you do what, that you get that answer of 3. This is where BOTMAs, those BOTMA rules are very important here. So what will make it 2? If we just say 6 minus 9, then we're going to get a negative 3, isn't it? That one is not going to work. 3 minus 4, if you first do that, then we get negative 1. So then we still don't have an answer. Negative 1 plus 5, that will not work. So you'll have to try to see what is going to work here. Look at this one, 6 minus 9, but then we get negative 3, so that's why that one is not correct then there. Another method will be, so this is now where I error and trial. So another method would be, for instance, to say 3 minus 4, which is negative 1. And negative 1 times 2 is negative 2 plus 5, and that is then 3. So that would be the correct one. So it's just error and trial. The nth term means that is your sequence, that is your pattern, that's the rule that we have there. And they provide you with a formula, n squared plus 2. N stands for any number, the 5th term, the 4th term, the 10th term. That's what n stands for. And now they want the 4th one, so all that we're going to do is to substitute. So 4, it's important that you always substitute in brackets, 4 squared plus 2, and the answer is then 18. Use your calculators. So on our calculators, we use brackets, 4, close the bracket, squared plus 2 is equal to. Make sure that you know how to use your calculators. Write these fractions in order with the smallest first. Now when we get these comparisons, we have to change them to the same thing. Percentages, or usually we change them to decimals. So 33 divided by 50 is 0.66. 2/3 to divide by 3 is 0.667 recurring. And 6 divided by 10 is 0.6. When we compare them now, we look in the first place at the first decimal. So now we see all of them are 6. So that won't determine which one is the smallest. Now we look at the second one. There's another 6, there's another 6, but here is a 0. That's why 6 out of 10 is your smallest number. And the next one, if we look now at the third one, here it's a 0, but there it is a 7. So it will be 33 out of 50. And the last one is then 2/3. And look that I also write them in the original given formation, not as the decimal. You will lose a mark if you do that. Question 5. Work out. So all that I do there is on my calculator, 43 to the power of, look, you will see there is a button, x to the power of 3. Use that one, is equal to, and I say write the full calculator display. So I got 79507 all the numbers, the full display, and now they want us to round it off to the nearest 1,000. Now remember, that rounding is always half of what they say. So what is a half of 1,000? 500, isn't it? So we have to look at this one now. Is this more than 500? Yes. So that means I have to round up, which makes it 80,000. So you're going to look there, and the 5, because it's 507, I will round up. Change 5.6 meters into kilometers. We'll have to divide here with 1,000, 1, 2, 3 places. So it is then 0.0561 kilometers. Change this into millimeters. This time I need to multiply with 1,000. So it's 15.3 and then 2 more zeros. I times with 1,000. Question 7. The length of a mirror is 15.6 centimeters correct to the nearest millimeter. Now, when they work with different units, it's sometimes difficult. So I find it easier to first change this one now to millimeters. There's 10 millimeters in a centimeter. And then half of 1 millimeter is now plus or minus 0.5. Half of 1 millimeter is plus or minus 0.5. And this is those lower and upper bounds. So now you add or subtract that, which makes it now 156.5 or 155.5. And then you will see the answer is given in centimeters. So I'm going to change now just back to centimeters, which will make it 15.55. And this one in centimeters, 15.65. 15.65. Question 8. Write your answer in standard form. Now first we have to do the sum. You'll have to use brackets here, otherwise we won't get the correct answer. Now on your calculator, there's a button at the bottom which says 10 to the power of x. Can you see that one? This is what we're going to use here. So brackets, 2.6, 10 to the power of x, negative 3, close the bracket, plus another bracket, 9.1 times that 10, and negative 4, and close the bracket. So I got 3.51 times 10 to the power of negative 3. It's a decimal answer, so that's why it's 10 to the power of negative 3. Remember, standard form means only one digit, only one number in front of that point to change it there. And then the last one, the distance from Buenos Aires to Wellington are so many kilometers. Now here's a nice one to show it here. What is standard form? One digit times 10 to the power of n. So the one digit is the first number. And what is the first number here? 1. Okay, and then how many places do you remove? Do you move this one? Look here. 1, 2. Well, actually from there we move 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is times 10 to the power of 4. Times 10 to the power of 4. Right, page 2. Rewrite this calculation with each number rounded to one significant figure. So we must first do that to change these numbers to one significant figure, each of them. So 13.5 to one significant figure will be 10, because it's not more than 5. 16, there's one significant figure. This will be 20. 4.8 to one significant figure, the 8 will influence there, so it is 5. Minus 22, so what is 22? 20, because the 2 won't influence it. And then this is divide by, and 13 is then also 10. So that's rounding it to one significant figure. Now they say use your answers. Don't do it on the calculator here. Use this to get your answer there to one significant figure. So it's 10 plus 30, divide by 5 minus 2 that we're going to do there. I have it that it's 30 over 5 minus 2. You see 20 divided by 10 is 2. So 30 divided by 3, and that will give us an estimated answer of 10. Then they say use your calculator to find the original calculation correct to 3 significant figures. Now it would just be good if you could use extra brackets there, otherwise you're going to get wrong answers. And then we do it on our calculator. So on your calculator, brackets, 13.5 plus 16, close the bracket, is equal to divide by another bracket here, 4.8 minus, and now we have to use those brackets also there, 22 divide by 13, close the bracket, is equal to, is D. Look, I got 9.49257, and they say rounding it off to 3 significant figures. Remember, significant figures work from the left. So 1, 2, 3, so it would be 9.49. Your answer would be 9.49. Question 11. The highest mountain in Argentina is Aconcagua. Its height is 6960 meters. Now here comes the maximum error. Correct to the nearest 20 meters. Half of that unit, half of 20, means it will be plus or minus 10. And now they say find the smallest possible height. So we just have to subtract the 10 there, which makes it 6950. Only want the smallest one there. Question 12. Which of the numbers below is not a rational number? What is a rational number? I can write it as a fraction. Decimals or vulgar fractions, plus or minus, that is rational. Now the only one that I cannot write as a fraction will be this one. I'll have to round it off. Press your calculator to make sure, but you'll have to round that one off. Right, the next one is number 13. Number 13. So we have a list of numbers again. From the values, write down the smallest one. I need to change them to decimals. So this one is 0.0, just 0.72. I divide by 100. We've got that one. This one is 0.7. This one is 0.07. And the last one is 0.072. Remember, if you see that sign, you divide with 100. Now we need to find the smallest number. And the smallest one, we're going to look at the decimals and the decimal places, and we start with the first position. So if we look now here, this one is a 0. That one is a 7, so that won't be the smallest. There's another 7. Here's again a 0 in the first position. And here's another one in the first position. Now, which of those numbers are now the smallest. This one and this one are actually the same. Can you see? Here we only have 0.07, so that one is the smallest, 7 out of 100. The next one says the largest number. The largest number. So obviously these ones are now out. So now we're looking at the first place, decimal place, and that's a 7. There's a 7. And here's a 7. Those are the ones with a 7. Okay. Here the next one is 0. The next one is also 0. And this one is a 2. So this is going to be the largest number, and that is then 72%. 72%. And now we've already seen that this one and this one are the same. So 0.072 is equal to 7.2%. It's equal to 7.2%. Right, question 14. An integer n is such that it lies between 60 and 70. Look, there's a limit. You must the whole time think of those numbers. Now we need to find the number which is prime in that list. What is a prime number? A prime number is only divisible by 1 in itself. 1 is not prime. 2 is the only even prime number. So there's only two factors, the number 1 and the number itself. And you'll have to test them there. So it is 61. It will be odd numbers because 2 is the only even one. So you test the odd numbers. And the next one is 67. A multiple of 9, we know that's 63. And what square number do we have there? 64. 64. The table below shows the average monthly temperatures in those cities. Work out the difference between the highest and the lowest one. But now remember, we work with a thermometer. So this is positive values and this is negative values. So if you're already negative and you go down, then you're not subtracting but adding. Okay, so what is the highest temperature? And this is the highest temperature is 1. And the lowest temperature will be this -9. -9. So the difference between the two is then 10 degrees. And then the highest recorded temperature for July was X. This is 21 above the average for July shown in the table. Work out the value of X. Now the average for July is -9. And so from 21 to -9, we have 13 degrees. Question 15. Choose one of the symbols given above to complete the statements. And now we've got X is 6, Y is 7. So obviously X is more than Y. 6 is more than -7. But now here we have to square them. So it is 6 squared. And it's vitally important that you substitute in brackets and the 2 is outside. Do it like this on your calculator. Otherwise, you're going to get wrong answers. And then the 7, look at the same thing. In brackets and the square outside. This is 36. This is 49. So it's going to be less than. You shouldn't get -49, +49. And then the last one, Y minus X. So -7 minus 6 is -13, and 6 minus -7 is +13. So this is again less than there. Right. Question 16. Question 16. Write 0.48 correct to one significant figure. So here we are, there is one significant figure. You remember, you don't look at the 0. The first one must be a number, not 0. So will the 8 influence the 4? Yes. So it will be 0.5. 0.5. Find an approximate answer by rounding each correct to one significant figure. It's like the question we had just now. So one significant figure will make this one 10. One significant figure will make this one 6. Now look at this one. One significant figure is there, which will make it 0.5. So 10 minus 6 times 0.5. BODMAS, I'll still have to look at BODMAS. So it means first that a half of 6 is then 3, and 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. And then calculate the exact value. So now on our calculators, we press 9.87 minus, and I'll use brackets there, 5.79 times 0.48, close, is equal to, and the answer is 7.0908, full calculator display. Can you see? I have to write down everything then there. Right, question 17. Sequences, geometric sequences, because we draw patterns. The diagram shows the sequence of dots and lines, and we have to draw the next one now there. So you'll have to draw it very nicely, not just not a rough one. It must be very similar. So now I will have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, and then also here. There's my shape. Okay, then they say complete the table for the numbers of dots and lines. So dots we have now, and here we have to find a pattern. And you can see that every time it is 3 more. So this one will be 13, 16, and 19. How many lines are in the pattern with 99 dots? So you have to find that pattern there. Now, there's a very nice formula, A plus N minus 1D. And this works actually very nice if you know this. So A is your first term. The first term here is 4. N stands for the number 99. So what is 99 minus 1? 98. And D stands for the common difference. So what is the difference every time here? 3. So if you substitute a 3 then in there, and if we just do that calculation, I got 298. You see, that's much easier to sit in error and trial on your calculator. Let me just take you through this again. That is the formula that we use. This is for a sequence where you add or subtract. And this is what we call A, the first term. N is how many, so that's where I got the 99. And the common difference is the plus 3 that we have here all the time. You multiply those two and add the 4, and then we can get it. Now, even to get the next one, you can also use that formula. So this is then in general, so it is then, we'll start there with 4 plus, so I'm still using this. Stick to the N minus 1 because I must find N, and the common difference is 3. And if we simplify this, just remember we multiply in there, then we have 3N, and 4 minus 3 is 1. There's my formula. Much easier than sitting and trying to find that one. And to find the last one, 85 lines, so now I can just equate this one to 85, so 3N plus 1 is equal to 85, and then I get that the number of dots is 28. Once you've got that formula, it's then very easy. Remember this one. Remember this A is the first term, D is the common difference. It will help you a lot. Question 18. Work out. Again, I need to use BODMAS. So this one's answer is 15. Question 19. The mass of a meat pie is 432, correct to one significant figure. So what does that mean? Write the mass correct to one significant figure. This is where one significant figure is. So will the 32 influence that one? No, because it's not more than half. But I need to keep the place value. You can't throw that away. It's not 4. I must keep the place value. This was 1,000 there. Arrange the following in order of size. We change them all to decimals. We've seen this now. 0.03 divide by 88. 0.03409. Got that one, and that one is 0.04. Again, when we have to compare them, we look at the first decimal place. There's a 0, there's a 0, there's a 0. Then we look at the next one. Now I've got a 3, I have a 4, and a 4. So this is the smallest one, 3/88. And then I can look at the next one, 0.43, 0.4. So there is a higher one. So it will first be 4%, and then it will be 0.043. Write the next two terms of the sequence. Again, you must find the pattern now. What is common difference? What do I keep on adding? A half, isn't it? So it is 2 and a half. And then write down the 12th term of this sequence. So I will just keep on adding, or I can make use of my formula, a plus n minus 1d. Remember this formula that we looked at now? What is a? What is the first term? A half. Plus, now we want the 12th term. 12 minus 1 is 11. And what is the common difference? Also a half. So it is a half of 11 plus a half, and that gives me 6. And then the nth term, again, let's use our formula here. So it is a half plus n minus 1. I must find n. The common difference is a half. We have to multiply it in here. So it is then a half n, and then plus a half minus a half is, so it remains a half n. Right, so we'll continue this worksheet in a second lesson. Thank you.
Teachers, we know all the hard work you put in every day to make sure our kids get the best education possible. It's also our goal here at One Africa TV's #LearnOn1. That's why we bring free quality supplementary lessons that are 100% Namibian, compliments of NMH's MyZone. Lessons include early childhood development programs and primary school lessons. These air on One Africa TV every weekday from 9 to 11 a.m. with repeats from 2 to 4 p.m. There's so much to learn with #LearnOn1. Invite learning in.
Right, grade 12s. We continue then with the workshop questions on number system. We're starting on page 4 with question 22. Question 22. And this is a very nice question to understand the number system, where they fit in. So they provide you with a list, and then from the list of numbers above, choose one that is irrational. Now we said rational means you can write it as a fraction. So irrational cannot be written as a fraction. I have to round it off. And that's why this one, the square root of 35, is irrational. The square root of 35 is irrational. Then the cube root, so you can just as well press your calculator like this. The cube root of 27, and the answer is 3. A multiple multiply of 9. So 9, 18, 27, and that would be 45. Multiples. Then a prime number. We said a prime number is a number which has only two factors, 1 and itself. 1 is not prime, and 2 is the only even prime number. So all the other prime numbers are odd numbers. We have to look at odd numbers. So now we have to look at which of these have factors. 2 and 3 are prime numbers, and then the other one would be 37. So you could have chosen any of those. Then a factor is a small thing that divides. What can divide into 44? And it would be 2. From that list, I think it's the only one. And then the product of 6 and 24, and 4, which is 24. That is very easy. Right. Number B. The diagram below shows a sequence of patterns made with small triangles. So you can draw the next one here, use a ruler, and make sure that you draw it precisely, neatly, with the correct number of tiles there. So in the first place, we draw the next pattern, then complete the table. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Easy. That's the triangles. And then how many tiles? Now, if we look here, there's 1, there's 4, there's 9. So here is a pattern that is forming here. You can count yours there, but it will be 16. And this one is 25 and 36. How do I know that? This is the set of square numbers. I can see 1, 4, 9, 16. It will continue 49, 64, 81, 100. So how many tiles will there be in the 100th pattern? So this is then this square number. So it means I square this one. So if we square 100, then it will be, there will be 4 zeros. 4 zeros there. 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros that we will have there. How many tiles will there be in the nth one? We're looking at our pattern and we say it's square numbers, so we're going to square n. What is the special name? We've said it now over and over. It is square numbers. Make sure that you know this set, because they often ask questions on square numbers. Number 23. Again, we have a list of numbers there, and we have to choose odd number. So it must be any odd number. So that would be 9, the odd number. A negative integer. Remember, an integer is positive or negative, but it's a whole number. So a negative one will be negative 2. Irrational, again, rational, I can write it as a fraction. Irrational means I have to round it off. And it's usually this one, the square root or pi. They are examples of irrational numbers. And here they're asking us a prime number again. If we look there, the only prime number is 2. The prime number is 2. Here, list all the factors. Factors is something small. I divide. So it is numbers that can divide into 21. So it will be 1 and 21. I start there with 1. 21 divide by 1. 21 divide by 2. No, that's impossible. 21 divide by 3. How many times? 7. And there is then my list of factors of this one. Right, question 25. Lucia's mass is 60 kilograms to the nearest kilogram. So that means half a kilogram is plus or minus 0.5. Half, that maximum error, half of the unit. Now we have to complete the upper and the lower bound. So you add it and you subtract it. 61.5 and 62.5. The lower and the upper bound. Question 26. The first 5 terms of a sequence are, write down the next 2. We need to find a pattern. So I can see here, this is plus 5, and that is my pattern. So plus 5 will be 26, and plus 5 will be 31. Write down the 15th one. Now, they didn't ask it, but it's always nice to have the pattern, because then it's much easier to get that. Otherwise, you'll have to sit on your calculator. Plus 5, plus 5, plus 5. Now, remember we spoke about this formula. A plus n minus 1, D. This is the formula that we can use here because we add. So what is A? A is the first term, which is 1, plus n minus 1. N stands for any number. And then D is the common difference, and that is the 5 that we have there. So we multiply it in, and then it is 5n plus 1 minus 5, which is minus 4. If you now substitute this 15 in that, then it is 74. So we can just do that on the calculator. So it is then 5 times 15 minus 4, which is equal to 71. Which is equal to 71. So the answer there is 71. Question 27. The prime numbers less than 50 are. So these are all prime numbers. What is a prime number? You can only divide by 1 in itself. 1 is not prime. 2 is the only even prime number. So in the first place, they say the prime factors of 195. What can divide into 195? You have the list there in front of you. So you'll sit and say 195 divide by 2, divide by 3, divide by 5, until you find the correct ones there. So I have 3, 5, 13, and 23. So it must give you a whole number. So you just do that with your calculator. Write 12 as the sum of 2 prime numbers. So we can see now what will give us, and that will be 5 plus 7. There's my prime numbers. I choose them there. Write 28 as the sum of 2 prime numbers. So you'll have to see what about 5 and 23. So 5 plus 23, but it could also be 23 plus 5. They say in 2 different ways. Perhaps you can find another one. 13, 25 plus 23. Okay, and then write 50 as the sum of 2 prime numbers. So it could be 7 plus 43, 37 plus 7 will also work. 37 plus 7. No, 37 plus 13. And there might be more. You can try them there. Some prime numbers are written in this form. Say they gave us that formula there. For example, 3 squared minus 2. And now we have to write 3 other prime numbers less than 50, which also works like that, but it must be prime numbers. So I've got 5 squared minus 2, that's 23. And then 7 squared minus 2, 47. So there might be more. And then write a prime number less than 50, which is in this form. Now look there, now it is plus 2, a prime number, which is n squared plus 2. This is error and trial. There is no formula there to get it out there. I have 11 squared plus 12, no, plus 2, sorry, plus 2, which is equal to, write down a prime number less than 50 that is in this form. No, this is not going to give you 13. So you'll have to error and trial until you can find one there.
My name is Liesel. I'm a medical officer in the anesthesiology department. I know friends and family who are vulnerable to the coronavirus. Some are pregnant, some have young children at home, others are elderly or suffer from autoimmune diseases or take steroid treatment. I want to protect them. Together, we can protect them. Please stay at home for us.
I like rhinos. I like them very much. Future here in this area is depending on the tourism. The future generation, they can see and they can benefit from their own resources. Animals like rhinos, elephants, the big five, you benefit from them and it must be respected. You are not feeding the rhinos, you are not giving them order, so it's a free business.
I don't know, cut it off.
I think 2 of my sons, which was little bit 5 years old, they were young guys. So they asked me questions. Why are we here? Why are we sleeping here? I told them this is our resources and this is our future. It's eating on that ball. My first memory of going with my dad is that I learned new things. As I grow up as a man, I see an opportunity in it. So I decided to look for a job pertaining to tourism. So that's when I was employed at Palamba. So I decided to go for tour guide studies. Because I grew up with the tourism industry, the wildlife, the rhinos and everything, to bring that experience to the tourists. You can see the hyena. The biggest changes, I was employed, getting paid, and also I can now support my family.
It's a cultural thing. It's coming a long way. Even if you go to area like Tweefontein, area was a lot of paintings. You will see rhino engravings on the rocks. That is an indication that the interaction between human, especially the local communities and wildlife, is dating back. That intimacy relationship is coming for a long time.
We are right here now at Palambach, and Palambach is one of the big lodges in the heart of the desert. And as you can see there is Jumbo standing behind me, which shows it's really a tourist area. We do have elephants, lions, but as you can see, the desert is the heart of the rhinos. This is the main breeding area of the rhinos, is what we found here in this desert.
It's the largest free-roaming population of black rhinos that you find outside national parks in the world. It's a population that communities in the northwest have taken responsibility themselves in managing this population with the structures that government has put in place, more specifically the establishment of conservancies.
These people, before independence, they took it upon themselves and decided that wildlife is our heritage, and through history we've been living with wildlife. And having wildlife in your area is like having a garden.
Because of all these animals, we've got the communities that benefit from all this wildlife, and it's like a triangle that fits into each other. And the communities looked after the wildlife doing their own thing, and the communities benefit.
So already there were this intergenerational relationship between mankind and wildlife, and that bond is what our people actually wanted to see continuing.
Very few countries have the wildlife that Namibia has. What is also important is the policies that Namibia has put in place, which also involves communities to be engaged in the management of the wildlife species and also to benefit from the wildlife resources.
Turn conservation into a rural economy, turn conservation into endless opportunities that would actually cater for those young people that have nothing else to do.
If it was not for rhino economy and tourism in this area, it was really difficult for young people to get or find a job.
We are conservation engineers. We make conservation work in an unfenced area, and through that, we want to turn the wildlife into the rural economy that will benefit the rural communities.
So we can see now wildlife is doing very well, the lodges are doing well, and the community is also benefiting. So it takes all three together.
Devastating hit over coronavirus fears. Airline industry is facing its biggest threat to travel since 9/11.
Since March, when COVID-19 hit Namibia, things actually become very difficult. In the first place, all the lodges closed down because of COVID-19. With us, Save the Rhino Trust, we had some donors cutting on their funding. And then we had, in the same time, a poaching case of 2 rhinos that was poached. We had less boots on the ground, and poachers could actually see. Now it's all changed to go in and do something. So COVID-19 was tough on all of us. Ginger Morning, who is one of our trustees, actually came up with the idea of, why don't we ask you to go to buy some gold for us and make gold bars? And then we sell them for rhino conservation.
I was fortunate enough to have a chance to have lunch with Clive Johnson, the CEO of B2 Gold in Vancouver, Canada. And I looked at Clive and I said, we've got rhinos, you've got gold, let's do something. Let's create a coin or a medallion or a bar using your resource to create a sustainable source of funding for rhino conservation for the future.
There was it. The gold was bought, the bar was made, and I think it was 31st of January that we launched the bars in Windhoek. And suddenly one morning I had an email from my office, from my finance person saying, these people don't have salaries. So I said, oh, what now? So I picked up my phone and I phoned Mark Daw. I said, Mark, I've got this problem. He said, but when we've got the fund already ready for you, you just have to apply, put a proposal in.
1,000 ounces of gold can make an enormous difference to the livelihoods of the communities that live up there. We are, in essence, providing income and providing a livelihood to the communities. In the absence of tourism, especially now with COVID-19, even prior to that, when we had such a bad drought, the communities became even more dependent on the natural economy.
The idea is to make this a fund that will last for the next 25, 30 years, or even longer. And a portion of that will be distributed immediately as needed. And in this case, the COVID-19 crisis necessitated us to distribute funds to pay salaries to help people in the field.
The proceeds of the sales from the gold bars will be going towards responsible NGOs. And we've identified Save the Rhino Trust as the key NGO. And IRDNC, one of the first organizations that was in the Northwest, integrated rural development and nature conservation, so that ultimately the funds go to the communities and various aspects of their war on poaching.
To be able to support those hardworking men and women that are always in the front line between the poachers and the rhinos.
If it was not for B2 Gold and the golden bars, I think by now we should have been in big trouble.
By extracting the gold, you reinvest it in other renewable resources.
The gold that's coming out from the ground is actually protecting the wildlife that's working on the ground, which is a very good symbol for the others.
I wish this was my bar. This is the 500 gram gold bar. So you'll see on this side you've got the Etindeka Mountains and you've got the mother rhino with her calf. And then on the reverse side, we've got the serial number, you've got the Rand refinery stamp, which is very important. Anywhere in the world, people will recognize this stamp and they will know that this bar contains 99.99% gold.
It is gorgeous.
We wanted to make a biggest contribution. And at Ballowwood, we see that as a way of giving back to the community.
Okay, so there you'll see the 500 gram bar.
Very special.
Feel the weight. It's incredible.
This opportunity which presented itself is absolutely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
We're privileged to have this.
This is just absolutely gorgeous, and I think this showcases really what the project is all about.
It's from 24-karat Namibian gold.
I'm looking at these rhinos is put there like Miss World photogenic, I would say.
There are only 1,000 of these gold bars, rhino gold bars, in circulation.
As far as I'm aware, it's the largest single donation of any corporate to the conservation of biodiversity anywhere in Africa.
Therefore, we so much appreciate and would want to continue as a government to work with B2 Gold.
And the fact that it's happening here in Namibia is something that we can all be extremely proud about and very grateful to B2 Gold.
Thanks to having this literal pot of gold through the funding for the Rhino Gold Bar, we're able to step in now and make sure that those trackers are supported, and so are their families and their communities.
We make sure that people sustain their jobs going forward, and who doesn't want gold?
And the B2 Gold Rhino Gold Bar has come in at a really critical time now, particularly with tourism being closed off and those forms of revenue not coming in.
To say we have the biggest rhino population or black rhino population in the world, let it be for the rest of our lives. And it's that heritage that we have It's our resource that we can all look after and protect.
It's our heritage. And it's also good that other people like B2 Gold are also seeing it that way.
It's actually a very nice link between the investor that buys this gold bar, the rhino tracker in the northwest of Namibia, and the black rhinos. It's an intergenerational thing. The rhino trackers teach their children how to track rhinos, their children get taught, and so it flows down.
This is something that I want my children to have, and that we leave a little bit of a B2 Gold legacy. And if I can be part of that as part of my family, I'd be very proud.
It can also become an inheritance for the generations of my own clan. My children, my grandchildren.
If we can bring that passion over to future generations and to hand that over to my children, and I hope that that same passion for conservation gets migrated over to my kids.
And what we've done together is create a sustainable source of funding that should outlive all of us.
I think as far as B2 Gold is concerned, we couldn't have chosen a better target in which to put our efforts as far as the environmental and conservation pillar is concerned. And I want to stress there that the money that's going towards environment and conservation is actually going towards the people.
Rhino is for all of us, whether you are in Canada, whether you are in Vancouver, whether you are in the US. If you really want to see conservation at play with rural communities, I therefore humbly request each and everyone to join us on our Rhino tour and have a wonderful experience. This is what keeps rhinos on this planet.
I've done rhino trekking experience. It was just amazing walking in that landscape of the Kunene. And as we followed them, we could now find rhinos with the calf. We got the closest distance we could.
It's a warning sign.
And it was just amazing and lovely, something to experience that Namibia can offer. It's something that you have to do in your life.
Just believe in me.